Hi everyone! So, I did manage to get a board out of MSI for launch, which is the MEG Z390 ACE. It's actually the second time we've seen the MEG name come through, because obviously we did see it with the Threadripper X399 board, and that board was absolutely amazingly over-engineered, loads of power phases. It pretty much did everything that the others were incapable of. So because of that, and it's got the same name again, I've actually got some very high hopes for it. But we need to test it and find out whether it can live up to it. So it is a pretty good looking board, but we do have a few things in the box to go over. Not a great deal of things to go over though. You do get a stand for your Wi-Fi. It's not magnetic. You see you've got the 2 feet, and then the aerial kind of shark fin comes out of the top. Then you get 4 SATA cables, pretty simple and basic. You get a couple of RGB extensions. You get a couple of RGB extensions. So that's a 4-pin one there. There is another one, there's an addressable one there. And then you also get an extension, because up here there is a Corsair header. And it's the only motherboard manufacturer that does implement a Corsair header. Then you get your driver CD. But looking around the board itself, you get 2 8-pins up in the top left-hand corner. Some of the boards have been doing with a single 8-pin. So having that second one up there does give us an inclination that they may be hoping this is going to be go for better things. And you can see you've got a pump header and fan 1 header, because this is your CPU fan and this is your pump fan 1. Then this little header here, you can see, is the Corsair header, and it does actually say just up here, you can see it says Corsair header. You go a little bit further across and then you can see you've got your RGB here, and they've actually bothered to mark where the 12 volt is. You got your PCI code readout. I always call it a PCI code readout, but it's like a post readout. It tells you about the faults during the post sequence when the system is booting. Then you come down a little bit more, you've got a fan header. I'm trying to do this. Oh, there we go. You've got a fan header. There's another fan header there. You've got some you've got lights here, and this is again for your post, and you've got CPU, VGA, boot, etc. And then there are some tiny little readouts. There we go. So these are your VGA, CPU, all of that sort of thing. These are little tiny LEDs, and then these are voltage pinouts that you can use your multimeter on. Apologies for you not being able to see it. 4. Then 2, it's one of the only boards I've seen that does have 2 USB 3.1 Gen 2 external outputs. Horizontal USB 3 external, I apologise, 6 SATAs, normal sort of stuff. Then in the bottom right hand corner, what we do have is we've got the power and the reset switch, and then you've got their auto overclocking switch here, which is like a little dial, and you can twist it round. Although they're preset profile, so it doesn't alter itself to your CPU. So it 9 times out of 10, or even 99 times out of 100, ends up putting too much volts through your CPU. Front panel header, another USB 3, 2 USB 2s. Then you can see we've got another system fan header here and another system fan header here. If we zoom out a little bit and then come up, you can see we've got an M.2 there with a cover on it, and there is another one here without, and another one here. So you get 3 on the board in total. Now, one thing I will say is you've got 3 metal shielded PCI Expresses, and then you've got 3 black normal PCI Express 1s. The audio boost down the side looks pretty sparse. Even underneath the cover, it doesn't look like there's a massive amount going on there. You do get gold plated headers on the back though, so you can see those there. Then when we come up, you get the Wi-Fi headers. Then you've got normal USB 3 here. This here is USB 3 Gen 2, because you can see it says SS10. BIOS flashback header, and then 3 normal USB 2s, gigabit Ethernet, and then at the top you've got your BIOS flashback button, including the BIOS clear switch. And I'll take you down slowly just so that you can see better. MSI Dragon badge design on the back. See the gold plated headers. Lovely, lovely. And then when we come round to the business side of things, you can see there are quite a lot of power phases up near the CPU socket. So we would be expecting great things. One of the things I have noticed compared to, because a lot of people worried about the 8 cores drawing a lot of power, it's pretty much drawing the same sort of power as the old 8700K. So if the boards were capable before, they'll be capable now. But if you have more power phases, then it's going to be spreading the load out. So that should mean that they'd be getting stressed less, probably going to end up meaning less heat in total as well. The heat sinks, in all honesty, don't have a massive amount of surface area is the word that I'm looking for, because these cutouts are the bits that make the difference. Doesn't matter whether it's a massive chunk of metal. If you actually chop that chunk of metal down so there's more surface area between, so you get more fins, that's how they actually cool better in the end. But the DRAM slots are metal shielded as well. That should help with longevity. It's more of something to help make them a little bit more braced, so if you have any mistakes though. And then you do get a funky looking PCH cooler. I still end up calling it the Northbridge cooler though. But there is some minor lighting on the board as well. So it's like a two-way mirror kind of effect, but with a mirrored coating on the front as well. So you end up with like an infinity mirror sort of thing in the back. Now you can control this in the software. I've just got this in the demo mode. The reason why I'm not showing you it lit in a system is we finished the testing a while ago and I'm now just playing catch up, getting the videos done in time for launch. It is quite subtle though. There's not a great deal of brightness there at all. And I can't help but thinking the fact that I can see each of the individual LEDs there. There's no like frosted cover or anything. Now I know that works with the infinity mirror because it gives an effect of there being a lot more lights in there, but I'm not entirely sure about it. I don't know, it feels a little bit cheap to me. It's the type of thing that you'd imagine being on like Blackpool Pleasure Beach, or like for the Americans that are out there, something like the sort of lighting that you might see on a one-armed bandit, you know, the kind of quarter machines where you go gambling, that sort of thing. It just feels a little bit cheap and kind of tacky like that, and I think they could have come up with something slightly better. Also, and it's been something that has been mentioned a few times when I've posted pictures, is that Ace font is horrific. Really, really don't like that, to the point where if I was going to use this board myself, that would literally have to get sanded off or painted over or put a sticker over the top or something like that. That, again, feels a little bit childish. Okay, so we've had a quick look around the board, and yes, I am in a bit of a rush because I'm trying to get as many of these done as possible. We can cover all the points, even though I have to talk 20 million miles an hour. If you can't understand me because of my accent, then maybe slow it down a little bit. I know that's difficult when I make such long videos, but you get the point. So, the MEG. The MEG overclocking. Now I'm going to cover this with most of the boards at launch, just so that I make sure that I reach enough people about it. When I say that we managed to overclock the processor to 5 GHz, it doesn't sound like such a big deal because they state 5 GHz as a boost speed, but the 5 GHz boost speed is on one core. So when you use all of the cores, the CPU will actually sit at 3.7 GHz. So when I say that we overclocked all the cores to 5 GHz, that means you've got 7 other chances that we may have not got that high. So that's actually, in the grand scheme of things, an astronomical overclock when you consider that if you were with a 2700X, that processor would have been running at 3.6 GHz on all the cores, and then we stressed it out to get 4 GHz out of all the cores. That's 400 megahertz difference. This is 1300 megahertz difference, a whole 1.3 gigahertz overclock across all of the cores. Yes, I will say that I probably would have hoped for a little bit more considering, but that's something that we'll cover in the CPU review, which if you want to go and have a look on the channel, you can go and see the CPU review there, the 9900K, and all the other motherboards, and you can also go to the OC3D website to dig through this and all the other motherboards as well. But 5 GHz. Now, straight away, MEG did well in all of the graphs, it came out that it was either top in the graphs or sometimes it was second place, and that was both at stock and overclocked. The fact that it did quite well at stock is actually a really positive thing, because normally when the stock results are a bit hinky and they're a little bit low, that's normally indicative of a BIOS that needs a little bit of refinement. So that for me at such an early time is actually a really positive thing for me to say about MSI, because it's normally the stock results that they used to slip up on. With the overclocking was pretty easy. We didn't need to like spend hours and hours and hours trying to tune and refine stuff. Memory results were good, blender results were good. As all the graphs are kind of appearing and disappearing, it did really well. So yes, I am trying to talk quickly, but I'm trying to keep the video length down, but also trying to cram as much in as possible. Don't forget, you can go to the Overclock 3D website if you would like to have a look in more depth. But the only thing that I can say while I'm staring at a feather blowing past outside that makes me think of an angel is the one thing about this board, well, two things about this board that I didn't like. The RGBs on the IO shield at the back, and the font, quite weirdly, on the IO shield as well. It just kind of made it feel a lot cheaper than it needed to, and I think they need to kind of bring some slightly more mature design methods in, rather than going for stuff that feels like it was designed for children, especially when it's not children level sort of prices that we're going to be paying for these sort of products. But other than that, cracking little board, really good scores, well laid out, nothing to argue about, does everything that you would expect it to, plus it does it with a little bit more refinement, and that's why we decided in the end to give it the OC3D Enthusiast Award. Bish bash bosh, on to the next review.